All right, guys, welcome back to Friends and Enemas. I am not the usual voice that you hear for this part, but I think I'm going to kind of take over on this one. Who do I have with me here?
Oh, you got me, Lindsay, the normal host. But I want to be a co-host today.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. The people like you, so I'm going to give you your moment.
Oh, yeah. We'll see how it goes. So this episode's a little bit different. This is going to be based around a blog post I wrote, 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
No.
Essentially, it was titled, "We Asked 10,000 Doctors What Makes a Good Nurse," and these are their responses. I hopped on Reddit. There's a Reddit with way more than 10,000, but that was the number that sounded best at the time. And I just asked them, hey, what has a nurse done that has made them stand out in your eyes? Or what has a nurse done that made your job easier, or that you appreciated, or that stuck in your head? And there's a lot of responses, and I just kind of distilled them into the top, looks like 8, and we're going to talk about those.
I'm excited because I feel like this is what a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Seasoned and new grads and nursing students, but definitely new grads. It's how to kind of coexist with other specialties and how to talk to them and what they want. And I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I distinctly remember one of the highest stress situations in the first couple of years of nursing was whenever I had to call doctors, especially like specialists at odd hours and stuff like that. And, you're like rehearsing in your head. It's like that TikTok of the girl that's like rehearsing her order.
Yep.
And she gets up to the drive-through window and screws it all up. It kind of feels that way. So, yeah, we've got some tips here on how to deal with doctors, how to make their lives easier.
And also how to make your life easier, because
it does make your life easier in turn.
It does. And then like quick little side note is, doctors, if you do listen to this, be freaking nice. Some of us are new. Some of us are not new. You don't know what people are dealing with. So like initially being hateful in any part of our job, nurses, RTs, doctors, whoever you are, it is not going to go down well, and you're always going to cause issues for that person, in my opinion, especially if they're new. Yeah. When I was a new grad and I called a doctor once, who I thought was the attending, that was their name on the chart. I didn't know how to look further into it, and he yelled at me right away. I immediately went inward and like didn't know what to do. Yeah. And it's just mean. There's just no sense of it. We're taking care of human lives. Being hateful for no damn reason is stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I somewhat understand where it comes from. Like, you think you're a lot of times they think they're the only nurse calling them, but it's like the 8th time they've been called that day for asymptomatic bradycardia that's like 55. Yeah. And it's so I'm sure that just drives them up the wall.
I get it, but there's quicker ways to be abrupt and not be mean, I think.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everybody could use
we're all busy.
Kind of blows my mind. We don't, at least in our nursing school and most people I talk to, there are no like interpersonal communications courses taught. There's no modules on it. There's nothing. Yeah. There's no modules on it whenever you start your job.
No.
I don't
learn.
I think doctors do a little bit of it in med school, but I don't think very much. I'm not sure on that. I would love to hear from a doctor, but I don't think that comes up very often.
Yeah.
How to talk to people.
And it makes it hard. It makes your job harder. So unfortunately, you have to like have these awkward moments with people and these unfortunate lessons that you'll learn because people are going to be mean to you. So that's kind of the reason you did this whole blog post initially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a high point of stress for a lot of nurses in general, especially new nurses. So, and some of these, like, especially for more seasoned nurses, you're gonna be like, well, duh, but maybe something will stick out, or it'll remind you, or let you know that you're doing it correctly, or there's a little bit for everybody.
Yeah. Let's dive in.
You wanna get started?
Yeah.
All right. So the first section is called Take Initiative, and it has a few different things, but a lot of times you just need to act. Before you need to call a doctor, there's several things that you could do to prepare for what they might say, or to completely obviate the call entirely where it didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Namely, looking at your PRNs. I can't tell you. I've done it a handful of times, but
Me too.
I've called for, anxiety or nausea or hypertension, and like while the phone's ringing, I like my heart drops because I open the PRN tabs and it's right there, and they pick up right away.
Hey,
Yeah,
it's me.
yeah. I was just seeing how you're doing.
How's life?
Yeah,
No, in those situations though, when you do catch it, I am just honest with them. You know what? I was calling for a PRN. I see it's there. My bad. I'll let you go.
yeah. I did the
Quick.
exact.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I saw it. I said, I am so sorry for wasting your time. I just pulled up your PRNs.
Yep.
It's there. Just ignore me.
Yeah, just ignore me. But I will say that took me about 2 years to actually get the hang of checking my parents, because unfortunately when you are new, all you're thinking about is there's a problem, I need a solution. Doctor helps me with solution.
Yeah.
So you like do this like internal battle of, okay, call doctor real quick, because you're new. And also it can be in a rush, especially with ICU or ER patients, or anyone that's crashing. I mean, it could be dire need sometimes.
Yeah.
Or your patient's just vomiting everywhere and you can't figure out how to stop it, and like you want to stop it.
Yeah, and you're stressed. Like, you need a med. You can't order the med. The doctor
Right.
can order the med. So you talk to the doctor, but you don't realize it. And then like you can get into, you forget to release signed and helds. And some doctors put like orders in the middle of the day as a signed and held, but there's nothing happening with the patient's not moving anywhere.
Sign and
so,
holds get me to this very day.
Yeah.
Where I'll be like, there's no orders on this damn patient. I'm like, what the? Oh yeah, there's another button. Unfortunately, that's not cool though. There should be pop-ups for those things.
I know there are, but they're not big enough in
I'm
Epic.
talking stop your page. There's a pop-up.
Yeah.
Like they do for potassium and shit.
Yeah.
Like, let me know there's orders I don't know about, because there's so many extra clicks. It just makes more work for us.
Yeah.
It could be easier.
Yeah, absolutely. More with taking initiative, just other things that you can do. We talked about PRNs. If you're calling about whatever, some sort of tachyarrhythmia, have the pertinent labs available, whatever it is, potassium and magnesium, I think. Yeah. Have a recent set of vitals within like the last 10 minutes, or have the ones that you just recently checked. We talked about sign and held orders. Oh, and another is to check your progress notes, because there's lots of doctors that will clarify things in their progress note, or they'll even allow nursing to put in an order through their progress note. And so you have to kind of check those. I don't love whenever they do that, but it happens.
I hate that because first of all, I want to jump back to the labs real quick. If you're a new grad, if you're calling about cardiac issues or liver or kidney or anything like that, have your labs pulled up. And if you don't know which labs they are yet, because sometimes it takes a while to memorize those, which labs do you need? They're having this issue. That's an easy way to navigate that. But back to the progress note thing. My problem with this is it is not standard practice everywhere.
Right.
So as a traveler, we've seen how they do it differently, and it does cause miscommunication more times than not. What I do like about Epic is there's a sticky note section on the summary. If you have things like that, it should be in the sticky note section, because that's a quick little boom right there. Yeah. I shouldn't have to read through your damn 3-page Word essay to find maybe somewhere in the plan what I need to do. That's so fucking annoying. And then side note, sometimes they'll put it where you could put it is nursing order, where they literally write in order, nursing order. If this, and this happens, you can do this, and this. Yeah. That's where those should go. Yeah. I hate when they're in
the nursing
note.
Communication.
The nursing communication order. Put it there. Because I'm telling you, I know that the last place I need to look is a plan of care note. But it is very, very hard to find and hard to get used to, and not everyone does it. So it causes a lot of miscommunication. Yeah. And extra time, our time wasted as well. Our time is just as valuable. It gets wasted when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next one. Number 2, be an expert on your patients. Just know your patient. If the doctor comes up and talks to you and asks you questions about your patient or overnight events or anything like that, you should know them. And we'll talk more on this later about giving and getting a good report. But, know your patients, know why they're there, know, any subjective things that they've been talking about, family dynamics, things like that. be a resource, because the doctor's in there 10 minutes
Yeah.
during a
They have
shift. You know,
tons of
it's,
patients
yeah,
to look
they
at.
have lots to do. And so you're the one giving them a picture of what the patient looks like. They can only get so much through the chart and labs and everything like that. So
Yeah.
you're filling in all the gaps between all that, and you need to be a good resource.
And I know you're going to touch on it later, but just to piggyback off of it, something for you to do in report if you're struggling with this is at the end of report, anything crazy happen overnight, anything I need to know about it overnight that the doctor would want to know. And I always create a little section off the side to my report sheet of plan or notes. And that way the doctor comes by, 58, what happened overnight? I can say boom, 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 nothing, or, whatever happened. But it's hard to get used to, but it's a great little like thing to start.
Yeah, absolutely. 3, this was the big one, and we'll probably stay here for a minute, but overnight paging etiquette. Or paging etiquette in general, but it's much more magnified at night. So first, use your critical thinking. Do you absolutely need to be calling for this issue? Is there any other way to fix the issue? Yeah. Talk to a more veteran nurse, talk to, your section buddies, all that. Try to figure out the problem on your own. And whenever you do go to call, and if the call is necessary, get to the point. Like if you are, I guess, direly concerned about your patient, if it's very serious, lead with that so you can set the tone for the conversation. They don't have the slightest clue what you're calling about. So set the tone of the conversation, and get directly to that. Give them a small, you're generally waking these people up in the middle of the night. Like imagine if you got a phone call in the middle of the night, you picked it up, you barely know what room you're in, and somebody asked you a very important question immediately.
Yeah.
With no pretext, no preamble or anything like that. It makes it very frustrating and very confusing and very difficult.
And how many calls and pages have they already gotten? So yeah, it makes sense that they could be frustrated. But what I lead with is, hey, Dr. So-and-so, Jane Doe in room blank in the ICU came in here for a UTI, is having this.
Yeah.
You'd give them a brief synopsis because they need to know, oh yeah, that patient, oh yeah, she did come in for that. Okay, this is happening. Is it related to what she came in for, or is this new? And if it's new, we have to act on it.
Yeah, and that's important. It's something to identify them, usually their diagnosis or something like that. But don't call them and say, Jane Doe, she came in on a month and a half ago, and she was originally in the med surge, and she did this. They're going to cut you off. They're going to be rude. And you're going to deserve it. Yeah, unfortunately. But
because that's one that is a good learning.
Yeah.
You learn it quick because damn, no one likes being talked to the way some people talk to us, and you learn it quick. But yeah, get to the point. And then if they have other questions, they'll ask. Mm-hmm. Well, what's this? What's this? What's this? But you need to just, who is it? Why are they there? The reason I'm calling.
Yeah. And then the only other thing with overnight paging etiquette, just something that is a good idea and isn't always applicable. If you're calling a doctor, usually they're taking care of several patients on that floor. So if you're calling them, especially overnight, and you need the most value out of that single phone call, and so that your doctor can get more sleep, just ask around, hey, does anybody need to talk to Dr. Smith? I'm about to call them. Does anybody have issues currently?
Yeah.
And that way you can tack those onto a single phone call, and you can save another nurse calling 10 minutes later.
If you're watching, I'm yawning so much. I'm sorry. This is the second podcast in the day, and it's mostly just, I'm not bored, okay? I'm just tired.
Yes.
Sorry. Wait, but I want to add on that.
Okay.
No, I don't. Go.
Okay. And then number 4, consider writing a nursing progress note. Not all EMRs allow this. It's mainly Epic that it's regular to write a progress note, but there were several doctors in that thread that said just a little blurb of what happened overnight from nursing is super helpful, because they can go through I's and O's and this and that and what the vitals were and everything, but seeing a blurb from the nurse of all the intangibles, things that you can't easily find in the chart or things that are easily missed, is super helpful, just to give them a round picture of what they're dealing with today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I agree with that.
if you're able to, or if there's any place to write in some sort of free text note, it doesn't hurt. It takes, 2 minutes at the end of your shift. Just write what you did. The same way you would tell the oncoming nurse about overnight events or what you did that shift.
Yeah.
Anticipate further complications. So this one's a little bit specialized. It's going to be maybe more in the ICU, but if you have a patient, septic, whatever, crashing, hypotensive, and you're about to do a 500 ml bolus or a liter bolus, you could, at that time, these doctors are busy, so they order that. And not every doctor does this, but some appreciate it. You say, okay, we do the bolus and we still have hypotension. Would you like Levo as your first line pressor?
Yeah.
And you could even go on to, do you want Vaso as your second line pressor? Do you want Neo as your second line pressor? You could get multiple verbals there to save time later and to save phone calls later. Some don't like to do multiple orders at once, but you'll get some doctors, especially as you get to know them better, they'll appreciate you saving a little bit of time by anticipating further complications.
If they are a doctor that likes to put in their own orders, which is great, this is a lot of times where you might look at that nursing communication because, okay, we're going to get that 500 ml bolus, but then what's next? And if you kind of give them that suggestive, okay, you want me to call you again? Or you want an order. A lot of times they'll write it in that nursing communication, and then you have the verbal order to then put in other orders, or the written order to then put in other orders as well.
Yeah. Yep. I threw this one in just because it annoys me. The quote, "I have to protect my license." So many times it's used as an excuse to just turn your brain off and just blindly follow protocol or anything like that. Yes, protect your license, do your charting, all of that, but you don't just because you don't have like antihypertensive, just because you don't have parameters where you don't give them, that doesn't mean you just shove antihypertensives into them no matter what their vitals are. You need to think. You need to use your critical thinking. Go ahead.
I was going to tap on this earlier. This is
let's hear it.
I had a brain fart. Critical thinking does come with time, though.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And sometimes new grads are blessed with it right away, and a lot of times they're not, and that's okay. But that is when you ask your fellow peers what they would do. That is when you utilize people around you and you learn, because again, critical thinking is a skill, but it is a learned skill for the most part. With that, I've gotten report from nurses before that everything seemingly is fine, right? And then I go and I look up the MAR and I look at medications that are due. I'm like, dang, why is my patient on Midodrine and has a blood pressure of 150 for the last 3 days? Why are you still giving the Midodrine for the first place? And also, maybe this needs to be talked about again with the physician. Hey, even when some nurses are holding it, the blood pressure is 130s to 150s. He doesn't need Midodrine. This is where the critical thinking comes in. I don't have to give this just because it's ordered and there's no parameters. No. Know your medications, and if you don't know them, look them up. Most systems, EMRs have a LexiComp or a Med, I don't remember the other one, Med Complex or whatever they're called. Click them, look into them. Every single time you don't know a med, look at it, because the more you look at it, the more you read, you're going to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And then more critical thinking skills will just zip and connect.
Yeah. And it makes your life easier because with the Midodrine, if you knew to chart it not given and to not give the medication, but somebody else is just going to pull all the meds and give all the meds, because there's no like hard stop on it, and it's not something that everybody thinks about. So just go directly to the doctor and say, hey, we still have this med, is this something you want to continue? And and that's another thing is suggesting things to doctors. It's an art as well. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It works way better. And I'm not saying they're all like this, but it works way better if it's floated to them as their own idea.
It seemingly does work that way. And it's more so, I mean, if you've been a nurse long enough, you have seen people just come right at them. This patient needs this, and this. Why aren't you? Why aren't you? Why aren't you? Yeah. That's going to get you nowhere. Yeah. I don't want think of this. Do you want people talking to you that way? I don't. Dear God, if you fucking talk to me that way, a switch happens.
Yeah.
Come to me with some respect. That's how I come to my doctors. Hey, I noticed this is happening. Would you suggest this? Would you? You know, it gives them the power.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
And we see that a lot in the ICU. You know, they're generally pretty open to suggestion because they know that a lot of this stuff becomes a little bit formulaic after a while. You know,
Right.
your sepsis patients, they're most of them are treated largely the same.
Yep.
And so you start to realize the patterns and everything, and you can kind of, you know, suggest plans of care just to get things moving a little bit more because they have a ton of patients and they're, you know, they're trying to knock everything out. But if you come to them with solutions instead of problems, it kind of takes a little bit of the burden off their shoulders.
And depending on the doctor, of course, when you do that, it also shows them that you are critically thinking and that you can think further than the exact moment than what's going on. And it typically builds, for me, is building great rapport, that they know that I know what I'm doing. So it builds a good relationship where they do trust me with certain things.
Yeah, I saw another Reddit thread that was there's something to the effect of do doctors talk about nurses? You know, the way that nurses talk about doctors, like the ones we like, the ones we think are good, the ones we think are bad, the ones that we think
yes,
are
they do.
kind of dickheads.
Sure they do.
And yeah, and it was just saying, is it the same way around? And everybody on this thread was saying, yeah, absolutely. They talk about, you know, different nurses and a lot in the same way. The ones that they trust and they know that they can give more autonomy to, and the others that they need to say, step one, you do this, and then you move to step two and you do this, and some require more babysitting, and the ones that are mean and the ones that they're scared of. And there was, you know, it's all the same. They
There's a
do
whole
the same
Reddit
stuff.
thread on it. You can find it. I like to read it because it also gives me insight. Like,
Yeah.
you know, again, I know how I want to be talked to. I want to know how they want to be talked to. And for the most part, it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's respectful. It's not demanding. It's not interrupting. It's not talking over. It's looking at us like we're humans and respectable people. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And a sidebar to that, and this is like my own soapbox, is when all the interns come on in whatever that is, July.
Yeah, I
I'm
know what you're gonna
so
say.
tired of the stupid joke like, oh, watch out, you know, they're here to kill your patients,
Yeah.
and blah, 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 blah. You know how hard that is to just get dropped in after like whatever, 3-4 years or 2 years of theory and books and stuff like that. You're dropped in a hospital and, you know, doctors in front of your name, and you haven't taken vitals, you haven't done a lot of this stuff. You know, you can't handle, and you don't know a lot of things in the hospital,
Right.
and you're afraid to look like you don't know them because you get treated poorly.
Exactly. And to piggyback off that, you know, you're saying like they just went through 2 years of theory or book work. We should feel for them. That's what we do as freaking nurses in nursing school. I am so protective over my new grads because I don't want anyone to break their confidence so that they don't harm a patient in the long run.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that to the doctors?
Right.
Leave them alone. Be freaking nice. I don't understand this like, yeah, oh, July, you better be careful. Better be careful. Do you know what you're doing? They don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know. It's like, I'm protective over my nurses when that happens. Be protective over them too. They're babies. They're new grads.
Yeah, it's like imagine if you got dropped on the floor your first day, you know, you're fresh out of school, you get on the floor and somebody just walks up to you and says, hey, go set up a secondary line and then drop an NG tube for that patient. And they just walk off.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't know how to do any of that.
Or and then let's say they're like, I don't know how to do that. I thought you were a nurse.
Exactly, yeah.
I thought I hate that mentality because any other place, maybe it'd be fine. I mean, it's not ever fine. But when you're taking care of people's lives, it's not fine.
No.
It's not fine to break down confidence of somebody who is helping someone stay alive. That drives me freaking nuts. Be nice. You can kindly teach someone every time.
Yeah. And it's not even about, it's about being kind, but breakdowns in communication directly harm patients.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And, you know, what was it? Is it mistakes in healthcare is what the third leading cause of death, fourth leading cause of death?
Is it miscommunication?
No, just mistakes in general in
I see.
healthcare. But a lot of them come from miscommunications. And
Because people
so,
are scared to speak up and scared to tell them, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you
yeah,
help me? Because there's so much judgment. There's so much ego. Put
yeah,
your freaking egos aside. It's embarrassing. Honestly, some of y'all's egos give me freaking embarrassment. I'm like, damn, you must be fun, like
yeah,
outside of work. You must be so fun.
yeah,
Be like, let people ask questions and let people think. Let them think it through without judgment.
yeah. I'm sure as interns, all of their superiors are terrorizing them enough. Why
Exactly.
can't you be like the little ray of sunshine while they're
Exactly.
terrified in the hospital and trying to learn how to be our future doctors?
Yes, and if you are that person for them, they will be back for you at a point you need it. I
Yeah.
promise you. There was a intern that I met at a hospital, a teaching hospital. She was brand new. I didn't know she was brand new until I walked into the room and she was in there bedside, combing the patient's hair. That was my first. This girl's new because I don't ever see anyone do that, which
Yeah.
is very kind.
Hmm.
Also, she was trying to help her call her luncheon. And I was like, oh, she said, the phone's not working. Could you help me? I said, absolutely. And she hands me the phone that is actually the bed remote, that is the call light,
Yeah,
that
they
also
call it.
is the TV remote.
It's got numbers on it.
And I was like, well, girl, how you gonna call? You know, I made a joke out of it lightheartedly. Girl, how you gonna call dietary with the bed phone or the bed controller? And she was like, looked at me like scared for a
Yeah.
moment, like, oh shit. I was like, you're fine. Here's the phone. Just dial this number. There you go.
Yeah.
And we went on about our life. Later, she came up to me and was like, thanks for not embarrassing me in front of that patient. I was like, you're welcome. Are you kidding me? We all have moments like that, especially when we're new.
Yeah.
I've had a moment like that when I was a brand new nurse tech, never worked in healthcare in my entire life. I was on a stroke unit. A patient coded. They looked at me, said, grab the crash cart. I said, yes, ma'am. Turned, the fuck is a crash cart?
Yeah.
Literally had to go into the nurse's station. I asked a physical therapist that had always been really nice to me because she didn't make me feel stupid. Hey, this room, they asked for a crash cart. Immediately she got up, ran to get the crash cart, put it in there, and then came back to me and was like, I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you did that. Why didn't you know what that was?
Mm.
Brand new, girl. Ain't nobody ever shown me that.
Yeah.
So like, it's just the little things like that. That was a big thing, but the remote, no one's ever shown her what the phone looks like in there. It looks like a
Yeah.
phone if you've never been in there.
Yeah.
They're just as new as we are. Maybe they've never worked in healthcare. Be kind.
Yeah. And there's a million little things in the hospital that don't need to go into a medical textbook, but
Right.
you still need to learn it at some point.
Right.
And so, yeah, just because you feel good because for whatever one semester of their lives you know more
Yeah.
than them in the hospital, there's no need to take advantage of it.
There's
right?
no, I just find it, when I see people talk poorly to doctors, but especially interns or new residents, I immediately have a little checkbox in my head about that person.
Yeah.
Like, you're that way.
Yeah. And yes, you'll run into the ones that think they need to assert their dominance because it makes them look more competent. But we all know exactly what's going on there, and so you don't need to react to it.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Wait,
You
you
know,
talking about doctors?
Yeah, the intern that replaces their fear with this
Aggressiveness.
exactly this fake ego to make
Oh, no.
themselves feel more competent.
Sometimes I'm like, okay, don't talk to me that way, but I can help you.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, yeah. I'm not saying like don't stand up for yourself.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying like understand where it's coming from and that it's
Sure.
obviously not personal. It's just them reacting poorly to a stressful situation.
And honestly, anyone coming at you in the hospital, it's not personal. Literally, the moment I learned that, so much stress was taken away from me.
Yeah.
It's gone off my chest because it is mostly projection every time.
There's just two more and they're pretty short. 7, we touched on this earlier, is give a good report, because there's nothing worse than getting a full report in the ICU and you're done at like 7:30. You got your report. You still don't entirely know what's going on.
You have to go look
and
it up yourself.
then the doctor comes by at 7:37 and they're asking you a ton of questions about the patient and what went on last night, what the labs were, what this was, what this a drain that you didn't even know that they had. And it's frustrating because then you look like an idiot.
Yep.
And you have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got a bad report," and they don't care. They're like, "We'll get a better one." Why don't you
Right.
ask more questions? So give a good report and don't make them pull information out of you.
Yep. On that note, if you didn't get a good report or you did, this is my exact routine after I get report, because sometimes you never know what they missed on accident. A lot of times it happens too. We're human at the end of the day, and if you're coming off night shift or just a long busy day shift, your brain is just jumbled a little bit. So after I get report, I immediately go to the notes. Immediately, that's my first step personally. Go to history or H&P, and I see what the doctor said of why they came in there and their full history, so I can get kind of a well-rounded idea of who this patient is.
Yep.
Next, I personally go to labs. After I've read through all the notes I want to, I go to labs. What labs are there? What's critical? If you don't know the little fish scales yet, learn those, because those have helped me a ton, which is quickly writing down labs. And if there's trending labs that you notice, okay, this patient's a cardiac patient, they came in for cardiac arrest, let's write down all their last 3 troponins and see what the trend is. That way, if this is another thing for the doctor, that way, if a troponin was super high, I don't know, give me a number, 260.
It's high.
And the next one was 263, and the next one was 264, you're trending up, but that's normal. You don't got to call the doctor for that. Was that bad?
I think it depends on the facility.
I think it depends on the facility, but
But
every time
I
I've
get
called
where
a
you're
doctor,
coming from.
you
Yes.
see what I'm saying? If there's a trend,
Yeah.
we know it's going up, and it doesn't shoot from 2 to 9 million,
Yeah.
200, 201, 202. Yeah, it's a trending up. Yeah, it's going to happen. They just had a heart attack.
Most doctors I've worked with, and some of them are going to be ugly about you calling because it went up, 10 more points. We already know it's going up.
Yeah.
But it's protocol. You have to call them sometimes. But where most doctors, they want calls all the way up until it peaks.
Yeah.
And like the first 2 as it comes down. And then beyond that, they don't really care.
That's kind of
They just want to hear where it peaked.
But then also, if you, I guess maybe get into the routine. What's your unit routine? Because if you know that the intensivist in ICU, if you know they come by at 7:30 and you're looking at your labs at 7, you can tell them in that report, hey, by the way, the trends are going up. I don't think you have to call them. That's a personal decision that I'm willing to sit on.
Yeah, I mean, every
For
doctor
that.
is different. Yeah,
Everyone's different.
You'll find doctors that.
You'll figure out who works what way. Also, if your facility has a Tiger Text option, that's a fantastic way to tell them critical labs. And I'm talking like labs that have been critical this whole time. We know they're critical.
Yeah, and another thing, just to piggyback on labs, don't just write down the latest lab for all of them. There's certain labs like that by themselves don't really tell you all that much. Like creatinine. It's high, okay, but what is the trend? The trend is important. Lactic, the trend is important. Tropes, the trend is important. So make sure that you get the last couple on ones that are commonly trended.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the last one, this is just kind of an in general one and might be a little bit controversial, but
I like controversy.
a lot of doctors said that they like when nurses are curious and ask questions and ask why they're not in an accusatory manner, not being belligerent, but saying like, oh, okay, that's not the order that I might have expected. Can you explain why that's the case, or why that's beneficial over this, what I thought the treatment was?
Yep.
And mostly, yes, it's absolutely gonna happen. You're gonna ask that question, and somebody's gonna be rude to you, and they're gonna blow you off.
list.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. There's jerks out there. There's doctors that are jerks. There are nurses that are jerks.
Yep.
There's transport people that I'm still scared of in the hospital, and I just like stay way behind the bed.
Literally, I'm so scared of you. I'm so scared of you.
Yeah, like how dare you call me to move this patient?
How dare I not know where to stand on what side of the bed you want me on? That's another thing.
But yeah, you're gonna get rude people. But most of your good doctors, in the correct setting, in an appropriate setting, whenever they're not slammed or doing something else, if they have time to talk and you have a question about something that you've been wondering, most of them are happy to teach.
They are.
It's part of your smart doctors realize that that's part of the treatment team, and arming them with more information helps the patients, it helps the treatment team, it helps the hospital. So they see the big picture and they'll help you out.
Maybe it helps their ego a little bit. One of my favorite quotes is, you don't have to say everything you know. And I use that in this manner of, if there is something I'm curious about, I let it look better for them. Can you teach me? That's okay to ask. I'm literally like, hey, honestly, I didn't know much about that. I kind of heard you talking about this. Could you teach me more? I don't know. I've never had someone be rude to me in that setting.
Yeah.
Just being like, if you are like, why? Yeah, they're gonna be rude to you. But if you using your words and like your tone is so delicate, learning how to use that is a superpower.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've mastered it. If I have something I'm curious about, one of my last facilities I was at, there was a doctor talking to another nurse about lactic acid and why it was going up. She kept calling him that it was critical. It's going up. It's going up. And he was like, please stop calling me. I know it's going up. She's on epi. Mm-hmm. And I was like, sorry to interrupt. I've never heard that before. What do you mean she's on epi? Would you mind teaching me that? Yeah. And he was like, sure. Patients that are on epi drips, their lactic is traditionally going to go up. That's a side effect of epinephrine. Mm-hmm. I had no clue. I've been in the game 3 years at the time. I was like, shit, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, we don't run into epi. That's kind of the last line.
No, but and their lactic is going. The nurse's concern is that they're septic, but we knew they're septic. They're already on epi. Yeah. So that's what he was getting at.
Sure.
They're already at the last presser. The next one's Jesus. Yeah. We need. It was just interesting to me. I didn't know epinephrine could cause lactic to go up.
Yeah, and that makes it like if they're septic already. And then you go on epinephrine, the lactic is less helpful at that point.
It's the least of your concerns.
Yeah, how much is it the epi versus the disease process?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But delicately asking, like, hey, do you mind teaching me about that? He was so excited to tell me.
Yeah, and most are. I mean, most of these doctors are, they're happy to teach. It took them. They worked their butts off to learn it all. Right. So, like, if I knew that much about a subject, I'd be thrilled to teach other people about it.
So I'm there for it.
And I'll always remember like the. Shout out Dr. Al-Hamed.
Al-Hamed, if you ever hear this, please send me a DM.
Yeah.
You're one that we talk about frequently for good reason.
Yeah. He was very intense, but like if he could tell you weren't getting something, he'd be like, oh, come here. Just come here. And he'd like be on a whiteboard.
Yeah, he scared me real bad when I was a new grad. I was very scared of him. I'll never forget when he told me to drop an NG tube, I think, because they forgot NG or OG, I don't remember, but the patient was intubated already. And he told me to drop one. And I was still in orientation. I was scared to do anything by myself. I said, okay, let me, I have to go get my preceptor. He's like, no, just do it right now. I was like, I'm new. I don't know. And he was like, I'll teach you. I'll walk you through it. But he was kind of like a dad. You know, he's had dad vibes. Like, he was just like, get it done. But okay, I'll teach you if you don't know how. Just you have to vocalize it. Yeah. And honestly, that taught me a lot. Like, vocalizing to these doctors. If they are being rude to me, I'm just like, hey, I don't know. You're going to have to walk me through this a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Use your words. You're a fucking big boy or big girl. Use your words and stop being mean.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I don't. If somebody clearly doesn't know something, they're ignorant to a certain subject, berating them on why they don't know it, it's not going to teach them. And you're wasting your own time. Like, it just doesn't make sense to do that. It feels good in the moment, but because you're being a shithead.
Right.
That's all I have wrote up. Anything that comes to mind for you?
I'm kind of thinking of whole picture, and I know I harp so much on like, be nice how you talk to people, but a lot of my stories come from, and even my skits come from people being mean. And being not just doctors. Once again, it could be literally anyone. Your RT. I've had a problem with any type of disciplinary specialty. That's what I was looking for. Discipline. Yeah, discipline. I've had an issue with any of them because again, there can be someone hateful in any specialty. One that comes to mind though is a plastic surgeon. I had a patient with a hand that was being reconstructed for various reasons. The order was not direct in what I needed to do for this wound. Mm-hmm. The problem was the dressing was drenched. The order said, do not change until the next day. And there was like no other orders on what happens though if it's drenched. You're not supposed to leave any wound drenched in the dressing. Yeah. Soaking through blood, all kinds of stuff. I called the surgeon, doesn't answer. Call the surgeon, doesn't answer. Page the surgeon. I go through the chain of command. I'm like, okay, I literally have to get house soup involved. We cannot find this plastic surgeon. I'm like, what is going on? We end up having to call a different plastic surgeon to come in to help me because we can't just leave it like that. Mm-hmm. He comes in to help me. Next thing I know, the original plastic surgeon is waltzing in. Uh-oh. What are you doing? What do you do? You freaking the hell out because someone's touching his patient.
Got a turf fight.
My friend, yeah, it was a pissing contest. And honestly, that's embarrassing. Why can't you guys talk too? And so I tried to explain to him, hey, I've tried calling you several times, and he put his hand in my face. I was a new grad, so I didn't have a backbone yet. But me now, I dare you to do that again.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? So I went out, got my preceptor. We go through this whole thing, and the whole issue was his fault. You should have put in an order of if the worst case scenario happens and the wound is, the dressing is drenched, we can't leave it till tomorrow, sir. So you either you come fix it or tell me how to do it. But the problem is I spent over 8 hours trying to find you. This kind of goes to like anyone being hateful and it's their own fault. Take accountability.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're human. I would have been fine with you being like, hey, I'm so sorry. I've been slammed. Whatever happened. This happened, whatever. Don't come in here and berate the person helping me and then be hateful to me acting like I'm the dumb one. No one's dumb in this situation, but you're acting dumb because you're being so damn rude for no reason. You know, just go over your orders. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to get on that. It's just, this happens more. This isn't just one story. It's the one I thought of, you know?
Yeah, and I think something you're lightly touching on is that like you don't have to be the punching bag for a doctor who's having a bad day, or a nurse who's having a bad day, or you're charged. Yeah, house soup who's having a bad day. You know, it's not your job to be their punching bag, and it is not normal to be talked to that way in medicine, even though Hollywood and the kind of the old guard of nursing will tell you otherwise.
Just because they went through it doesn't mean you have to, though.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't.
You're allowed to stand up for yourself, and you're allowed to ask questions, and you're allowed to suggest things, and all the things. And I'm not shitting on doctors. I have met plenty of amazing people. I'm like, I think I'd be their friend outside of work. Like
yeah, and that's in God, 6.5 years of nursing, I could count the number of negative interactions I've had with doctors on one hand.
Yeah,
like it's
they're very in my face because I'll never forget them.
Yeah, you remember the negative way more than the positive, but. Yeah, the vast majority of doctors are it's just like you're talking to a coworker. And that's how it should be. I mean, and that comes with, you need to be competent in your own job.
Right.
If you're having negative interactions because you're not getting your stuff done, then that's completely different.
Yeah. If it's a pattern of you also need to take accountability. Yeah. And that's kind of, put your ego aside. We should not have such of a freaking big ego in this job. Yeah. People's lives are on the line. Put your freaking boohoo aside, take accountability and learn from it and move on. Don't make it a pattern. Period. Speaking of on this note, but on the flippity flip of this note. Okay. If the turntable turn, anyway.
Nice.
Something that doctors could do or residents for us, because this is interchangeable. We are a team. You're not my boss. We're a team. Dr. Noakes. I want to shout out to Dr. Noakes right now.
Didn't we shout him out already?
I don't know if we did.
I mean, he can have two.
He can have two because he's that great.
Yeah.
He was with me at my very first hospital. And I'll never forget when I was drowning. I actually was tripled this very day with 3 vent patients, drowning. Couldn't find someone to help me pull this person up so that they could breathe better. He comes in for a report. I was like, I'm sorry, 1 second, let me go, or for his assessment, let me go find someone to help me pull up the patient. I can help you. Yeah. Mind blown. Mind freaking blown. That never happened in my year of being there. And it honestly has never happened again. And I know they're busy, but I'm just saying if they walk in the room and they see us struggling, it's nice. It's quick. No one likes, it's quick.
Yeah. And you don't understand how much that sends shockwaves through the whole floor.
Oh, we're talking about you the whole day. Get to help me today. Dr. Noakes.
It takes 10 seconds and you have fans, you're a fan for life.
Yes.
You know that he cares and you'll do your best for him, and it
builds rapport.
Yeah, there's such a better relationship there if you can do these small things, even like this little stuff, like whenever after you put in an art line or a central line or something like that, you clean up all your stuff instead of just taking your sharps and leaving the rest of your trash. If you clean it all up, I'm like, all right.
Say, okay.
Somebody cooked here.
Someone cooked here. That's exactly how I feel, though, because, I mean, The truth is, I've had plenty of doctors that have walked in when I need help pulling someone up, and they do not help me, and it takes 3 times as long for you to get your information because I have to now go find someone. Yep. Versus if this is a time thing, you can get in and out real quick if you just help me real quick. I'll walk you through it. It's okay. That really bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a little bit shorter episode, but I only have so many points over here.
Yeah.
I can't just rattle stuff off like the original host here.
Oh, you think I'm a talker? Yeah. Maybe that's why I started a podcast. I will say though, if you guys want to drop, this is gonna be on YouTube, and if you guys want to drop any other suggestions, doctors and or nurses or RTs or whatever your specialty is, this is how you can help me. You know what I mean? That helps everybody.
Yeah.
Tell us little things that help you throughout your day and your shift and just overall your career, because it is a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
Even though a lot of people like to think they're the number one in charge, nurses, anyone, doctors, anyone. This is a team effort, and it only makes your patient's life better and yours. I'm telling you, my life, if I go to work knowing I'm not about to fight with anyone at work, I have such a better shift.
Yeah.
Than thinking about who I need to avoid and turn around and hide from.
Yeah.
So that's all we got, though. It was a quick dun-dun-dun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just short and sweet, packed with hopefully helpful information.
I really liked your TikTok, though. Your TikTok, someone cooked here.
Nice. I thought you were talking about my latest production.
Your latest production. If you are not following me on TikTok, please go follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not afraid to ask you. Please go do it. And then watch what was it? A Day in the Life of Report.
Yeah, the report one, written and directed by yours truly.
By J.K. Sheld over here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, that's all we got for you. Please don't forget to hop on over to my Patreon because we are dropping juicy bits very soon. I've been stacking them up, saving them, because I want to just drop them weekly and have it more consistent. But it's called Juicy Bits over on Patreon. There will be some free stuff for you too. It's not just paid, but then if you pay a little bit here and there, there's even more stuff coming. So go check it out on Patreon, and thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
Bye.
Thanks.